Before the world got their first historic glimpse at the Queens of Nashville, the world of country music was far different than it is today.
You've got to bore a hole through the potato long way. Now we use a 5/8 inch bit.
We use a 3/4 inch bit at our house. You get more pig in your tater.
Yeah, that's it. And you hold the tater real tight now, and then you kind of take it right here in the middle, and then you start in.
Today, country music isn't male-dominated, nor is it just confined to the hills and small towns of America. The music is a large part of contemporary society, and everyone seems to want a piece of it. What sets these ladies apart from the rest of the pack is their passion for music. They have been singing since childhood, and now are the standard by which country music is judged.
I think country music has the same appeal that rock and roll music has. I think it's feel good, I can relate to this music. Unlike rock and roll, country music focuses more on lyrics, more on emotion, as opposed to just creating pure adrenaline. But I think there are a lot of artists in recent history that have really channeled into that, upping the ante, upping the energy level of country music, and it's really become noticeable. I mean, you used to go to a country concert and it was a band up there playing. Now it's like a rock and roll spectacle, but with lyrical stimulation, with songs that you can sing along to, and with that same country familiarity that makes us feel really, really comfortable.
In 1947, Bob McCoy and Ernest Tubbs performed at Carnegie Hall to a cheering, overflowing crowd that proved the doubters wrong. In 1955, Marty Robbins took it a step further with his television performances.
My name is Charlie Applewhite, and welcome once again to Country Style USA, brought to you by your local United States Army recruiter and this television station. Country Style USA features the best in country and western music, and your favorite stars will be here for your viewing and listening pleasure. And now here he is, the star of our show, Columbia recording star, Marty Robbins.
I'd like to find somebody who could be just halfway true, but I can't quit, I've gone too far, I'm deep in love with you. I'd like to pull up stakes and leave, that's what I'd like to do, but I can't quit, I've gone too far, I'm deep in love with you. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't be so blue. I'd quit seeing you long ago, wouldn't be loving you.
In the 21st century, Faith, Reba, Miranda, Carrie, and Taylor are selling out stadiums worldwide to cheering fans because they are indeed the Queens of Nashville.
Is like being on a stage with the best role models I could ask for, just in terms of dignity and grace and longevity in their careers. And these people have written songs about their life, honestly and from an authentic place. And I think that's the definition of country music.
At an early age, Taylor Swift knew she wanted to sing like Faith Hill, Shania Twain, and the Dixie Chicks.
Just this beautiful, shining, glittery thing to me. I'm so excited about the opportunity to possibly walk away with a Grammy. You know, I don't know what that feels like. I've never gotten up there and accepted a Grammy before, and I don't know, someday I'd really like to know what that feels like.
It didn't take long for the driven young lady to make her way to Nashville, where she went on to win 7 Grammy Awards, 11 American Music Awards, 7 Country Association Awards, 6 Academy of Country Music Awards, and 4 Billboard Music Awards. As a songwriter, the Nashville Songwriters Association and the Songwriters Hall of Fame have honored her.
Already 18 and absolutely loving this. This is the best senior year I could have imagined. And, you know, having a blast with it. Well, for this award, I guess I saw my name on the ballot, but didn't really think that I had a chance at winning. And I was like, yes, it's good to be a nominee, but I honestly didn't think that I was going to win this award. And I can't believe that I did. I can't believe that the fans did that for me. Everybody on MySpace, they're the reason why I am holding this award right now.
Taylor Swift, America's sweetheart, was born December 13th, 1989, in Reading, Pennsylvania. At 9 years old, Taylor and her family moved to Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. There, she spent her summer vacations at her parents' beachfront home in Stone Harbor, New Jersey.
I'd say they made a pretty big sacrifice. When she was 14, her father up and moved the whole family to Hendersonville, Tennessee. Fortunate for him, he was able to transfer to the Merrill Lynch office in Nashville.
Well, I have family that I spend every Thanksgiving with. They're all on my mom's side, and they're all women, and they're really loud. They're obnoxiously loud, and they all have this genetic cackle. And they stand in the kitchen, and it's the loudest sound. It like breaks noise barriers, and it's like out of a movie. I mean, my cousins have like 49 cats and dogs, and it's really fun to go there and have somewhere I know I'm going to be every Thanksgiving.
At the same time, Swift became interested in singing and often went to New York for vocal lessons. Before long, she had become consumed with country music. To hone her skills, she used all of her free time to perform at all kinds of events, from Boy Scout meetings and sporting events to local festivals and coffee houses.
At the beginning of the year, I'm going to the UK again and doing a tour there. I'm going to Australia, and I'm going to Japan, so I'm really excited about that. And then when I get back, I'm starting my headlining tour in May, and I can't wait.
After watching Faith Hill on Behind the Music, the young artist knew she was destined for Nashville. She just had to figure out a way to be different so she would stand out from the noisy Nashville music crowd. Taylor knew her strength would be writing her own songs.
To me, Taylor Swift is sheer brilliance. She writes feelings from, past life experiences, and I think everybody, but young girls in general, all over the world can relate to that.
Yeah, I think Taylor's just wise beyond her years. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she had a clear vision of what teenagers wanted to hear musically. She also was super dedicated in trying to capture her own teenage years through her music.
Songwriting for me is how I process how I feel. Sometimes I don't even know how I feel until I write it in a song. And I feel very lucky to have been able to write all the songs that I've ever recorded. And especially with this new album, writing them all, without any co-writers. I am very excited for people to hear it.
One time I gave her an award on one of the shows, and she was one of the two of my children. I got 8, but 2 of them are real Taylor Swift fans, and they're just so excited that I'll be up here working with her. But she's very nice.
I think for me, I just live on the hope that if I keep on writing about my life, and my life is constantly changing, my music will also be changing as well.
At 15, Taylor left RCA Records. She was ready to start recording her album, but her parents wanted her to wait a few years to split from her record label and manager.
Before Swift, the record industry had no idea that there was a huge audience of young girls who loved country music. Country music that talked about teenage problems and life in general, and it's a success.
In 2005, at an industry showcase at Nashville's Bluebird Cafe, Swift caught the attention of Scott Borchetta of Big Machine Records, who signed her to a record deal. Swift immediately got work. She wrote 3 of the album's songs, including 2 singles, and co-wrote the other 8 with various artists. The final product was released in 2006, her self-titled debut album, Taylor Swift.
For me, performing Innocent on the VMAs was a great way to put a lot of it behind me, and I'm very happy about that. I was very grateful that I was given the opportunity to perform a song that nobody had heard before, and really happy with the responses that I got back to the song. That was wonderful.
With the success of her debut album, Swift promoted the LP extensively. In addition to her own material, Swift played covers of songs by Beyoncé, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Eminem, and Rihanna.
Many people have influenced her, including her grandmother, Marjorie Finlay, who was an opera singer. So right there, it shows you a lot about range. You know, people think they're just keyed into one thing, but sometimes it's opera or choir or classical, or it could be a million things, genres that fit into the genre that we know them as. Also, she said on many occasions that Shania Twain, who is, you know, sort of the queen bee, but anyway, Shania Twain was not only as a songwriter, but also as a performer, was her biggest musical influence.
I am performing. It's just wonderful to be here because there are so many people that I respect and I look up to and I admire doing something, coming together to raise awareness for, you know, cancer detection and detecting it early. And there's that, you know, these people that I've looked up to for so long, getting to meet people like Tom Hanks. And then on the other hand, I get to play music. So it's wonderful to be here tonight.
In 2008, Swift released her second studio album, Fearless. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling more than 8.6 million copies worldwide. In 2010, Taylor Swift's Speak Now album solidified her as one of the best songwriters in country music. That album sold more than 6 million copies, and the tour was attended by over 1.6 million fans, grossing over $123 million. Despite all of her accomplishments, her most famous moment was the infamous clash between herself and rapper-producer Kanye West.
Kanye said something like Beyonce's video should have won at that time. I kind of felt bad for Taylor. She looked like a deer in headlights. I kind of wish he hadn't gone as far as he did, but what are you gonna do? I thought it was hilarious because I love Kanye. I was just like, at first I was surprised and then I started laughing. I was just like, oh man, but I didn't think it was like, I mean, I can see if it was me accepting a award, I probably have been like, but overall I just kind of laughed, just kind of outside looking in type thing.
I'm a huge fan of Beyonce as well. You know, I actually, if it's jumping off topic, you know, in that direction, I favor Beyonce more so, you know, so it's an honest opinion. You know, I think that was out of hand, definitely, because you should be able to respect artists in any genre, especially when you've got Taylor Swift at, what is she, 19, 20, something like that, with, you know, the range of success, you know, that she's covered in a matter of 4 years. You know, it took Beyonce how long to get to that spot? You know, platinum records, millions and millions of copies of every single that she's released. And I think that was definitely just stepping out of hand. And, you know, part of me thinks that, you know, Kanye's side of that was a little bit of jealousy, you know, but either way, it was overstepping a huge line.
At 23, Swift already has a lifetime of achievements. Although she's known for her narrative songs about her personal experiences, she has also proven to be a great actress as well. Now that she's worth over $165 million, what's next for Taylor? Looks like the sky is the limit.
You know, see your hero and get inspiration from all your heroes, but try to be something completely different from your heroes. You know, for me, I think that, you know, writing my own songs was a way to you know, create what I wanted to create and music about my life, and that way it kind of became just a diary put to music every time I put out a new record. And I guess I would say learn an instrument, because it just makes everything easier. Like if you're gonna go play out, like it helps if you've got your own guitar and you can go accompany yourself.
In Faith Hill's 19-year career, she has sold over 40 million records worldwide, had 13 #1 singles, and 20 #1 videos.
Has there ever been a more exciting female artist than Faith Hill? I mean, the hits, this image of beautiful wife, loving mother, Tim McGraw right by her side, the fact that she clawed her way up through the music industry, never let go of her dreams. That's exactly what you want in a country music superstar. She's it. She's all of it. And on top of it, she's one of the most beautiful women in the world. Faith Hill is the first female artist to have not one, not two, but 3 consecutive #1 albums on both the country and the pop charts. Think about that. And she did it at a time when country and pop were just starting to come together. She's one of the ones that kind of blurred the line. Kenny Chesney, Shania Twain, all of them have obviously pretty much just erased the line by this point. But Faith was the one that got pop listeners to say, hey, I like this. She may be country, but I like this a lot.
Hill is the only female artist in history to have 3 consecutive albums debut at #1 on Billboard's pop and country charts.
One of the biggest country stars of the 90s and the 2000s was Faith Hill. She took full advantage of the inroads that Shania Twain had made, crossing over into the pop music side of things. And she actually capitalized with some country songs that actually had crossed over and became pop sensations. So subsequently, she had some very huge tours, and she was one of the biggest stars that the country music scene has seen in a long time.
But this Queen of Nashville did not stop there. The Grammy Awards, the Academy of Country Music, the Country Music Association, the American Music Awards, and the People's Choice Awards have also honored Faith. In 2001, Faith was named one of the 30 most powerful women in America by Ladies' Home Journal. In 2009, Billboard named her the #1 adult contemporary artist of the decade.
I tell you what, there aren't too many artists that would have the confidence to go as commercial as Faith Hill has. I mean, think about it. There hasn't been a magazine cover, I don't think, that she hasn't appeared on. She's been a cover girl for Revlon. She has fragrances. You name it, and she's got her perfectly manicured hands in it.
Audrey Faith Perry, aka Faith Hill, was born on September 21, 1967, in Ridgeland, Mississippi. She began performing at age 7. She had a defining moment at age 9 when she had the fortune of attending an Elvis Presley concert, which inspired her to become a performer. Not long after arriving in Nashville, Faith auditioned to be a backup singer for Reba McEntire. Unfortunately, she didn't get the gig. Instead, she went to work at a music publishing firm as a receptionist.
Well, if you want to be great, you have to immerse yourself in the music and the culture of the city. And it is an electrifying city, and it just draws, it's like a magnet for great singers.
For anybody that's been to Nashville, Tennessee, there is nothing like walking down Broadway, 10 o'clock at night, past one bar after another, each bar filled with people, and on the stage, and the stages are usually right in the corner, right by the front door, there's always a band playing. And the bands in Nashville just seem to have heart. They seem to have just a genuine love for the music they're playing, and a lot of the music they're playing is their own lyrics, their own music, their own works of art. And you feel that in Nashville. I think that's what makes the city so magical, so special, so legendary when it comes to music. And another great thing I love about walking down Broadway is that the people that you hear from the street are the people that are going to be just a few blocks over at the Ryman Auditorium in 10 years. You know, that's just the way Nashville works. Nashville takes care of its own. Nashville makes dreams come true. It always has. It always will. It's the heart of country music.
Eventually, Faith did land a job with her idol Reba McEntire, but it wasn't to sing. Instead, it was a gig packing fan club merchandise.
No doubt about it. If you want to make it as a country singer, you have to go where all the action is, and that's Nashville.
Music publishing executive Daniel Hill married 20-year-old Faith on July 23, 1988, after dating for more than a year. Even though she was married, Faith still dreamed of a career in country music.
Well, Daniel Hill was a Nashville record executive, and I believe specifically he was in music publishing.
Pretty clear that Danny felt Faith had her doubts. Marriage is difficult for any average couple, but throw into the mix Faith's obviously climbing career and, fill in the blank.
As fate would have it, a coworker heard her singing one day and encouraged her to become a demo singer.
You've got to have singing lessons, train your voice. Personally, I don't think it's all about having natural talent. There are millions of people out there with natural talent that can sing, but you got to bring your own flavor to the mix. A new sound, a new look. You can't just copycat your favorite artists. You won't make it.
Hill decided to kick her career up a couple of notches by singing backup to various artists. Faith was eventually discovered by an executive at Warner Brothers. He was so impressed with her strong vocal abilities that he immediately signed her to a record deal. The good news was bittersweet. Just shortly after the greatest achievement in her career, Faith's personal life took a hit as she filed for divorce in 1994.
I got to give her ex-husband credit. He says he's not bitter and he's really proud of her success.
Faith rebounded from her divorce and her music career began to soar. Her first 2 albums each sold over 3 million copies. In 1996, Faith began touring with fellow country singer Tim McGraw. Although Faith was engaged to Scott Hendricks at the time, McGraw and Hill had an immediate attraction to one another and began a steamy love affair.
I think the phrase is there for a reason, opposites attract. Tim's more of the guy, roll out of bed, throw on a t-shirt and jeans and goes about his day in front of thousands and thousands of people. And, Faith is over here. She's a little more outgoing, more of the flashy fireside, so I think that's one of the many reasons, they keep their marriage healthy and get along so well.
Tim McGraw and Faith Hill married on October 6, 1996. Soon after, they started a family and had 3 children. Despite their busy lives, both insist on spending quality time together as a family.
Faith Hill and Tim McGraw have been together since 1996, and they've had to make it work. It's difficult to do that within the music industry. There's many stories of showbiz couples that have gone in separate directions, but they've made it work. And one way they've done it, or at least they've admitted to doing this, is going on date nights to sort of remove themselves from all the glitz and glamour and sometimes the troubles of being under the scrutiny of the showbiz lights. And even Tim McGraw years ago quit drinking so he could focus on the family. And those things, among others, allowed their relationship to get closer and has allowed them to be a formidable duo. They're a strong team and they're 2 of the biggest country acts the world's ever seen.
You have 4 girls in the house,
I know, that's
so you
a
have
lot.
a tough job. No, it's always Valentine's Day with you, baby.
Oh, come on.
Oh gosh, I don't know. We've done pretty simple, to be honest with you. Nothing real extravagant.
Nothing crazy. No, our best times are just to hang out of the house with the kids, and that's what we try to do is something like. Every now and then we'll go on our date, but our date nights are usually
during the afternoon.
12 o'clock in the afternoon, having lunch on a Tuesday and going to a movie.
Yeah.
One of the best rules they have, in my opinion, is that they have a rule where they are adamant about not being apart from each other for more than 3 days at a time. Now, that's a good rule, because I think, it helps you from straying when you're on the road. You could be all alone and you could have a lot of fans, adoring fans who love you. And so if you make sure you're together a lot, it helps,
Yeah, we went to see Rod Stewart one year when he came through Nashville, and I remember he was going into his encore and he was just about to sing Hot Legs. And you pulled me out of the seat and I was like, what are you doing? I have to see what Rod Stewart sing Hot Legs. And then you blindfolded me and put me into the car, went to the airport, got on a plane.
And
we're gone. And I forgave you once we got to where we're going.
Yeah.
In 1998, Hill released Faith, a pop country hit that sold more than 6 million copies. She immediately followed that up with another CD titled Breathe, which sold 10 million copies and garnered her 3 Grammy Awards.
First of all, I heard that she changes diapers right before she even goes on the stage, which is amazing but she's dedicated to that balance. She's dedicated to making her family situation work while enjoying her career at the same time. And it looks like she has hit her stride and, making it all work.
In 2000, Faith found her career in high gear, being featured in television commercials, performing at award shows, becoming a cover girl, and winning the CMA Female Vocalist of the Year award.
Collectively, they've sold 70 million albums, won 8 Grammy Awards, 14 Country Music Awards, 14 American Music Awards, 7 People's Choice Awards, and 26 Academy of Country Music Awards. Please join me in welcoming Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
Thank you so much, John. That was quite an introduction. Thank you. I'm so excited. This is thrilling for us to be a part of this extraordinary experience for this limited time. The Venetian has just offered, they're opened the doors here and welcomed us in such a gracious way. And we're creating a show that is going to be remarkable for our fans, but as I'm here today and backstage and we're preparing to come out, I feel like it's going to be one of the most remarkable experiences for us as well. We're truly excited, and thank you so much for being here.
Faith Hill, along with her husband Tim McGraw, has been on a world-trotting, whirlwind, worldwide tour. And the Soul to Soul tour has been one of the biggest in country music history.
You can see us in arenas and stadiums and outdoor venues and all that stuff, but just for us, we wanted to do something really cool in here, and it's been just as cool for us as hopefully it's been for the audience.
Yeah, it really has. It's been fun.
Over the next few years, Faith kept up her frantic pace by releasing the CD Cry in 2002, which sold more than 4 million albums worldwide. In 2006, Faith and her husband Tim McGraw began the Soul to Soul tour. The tour became the highest-grossing country music tour ever, with a gross of $90 million. In 2007, Faith Hill took over as the voice of the NFL on NBC's Sunday Night Football by singing the theme song. On February 1st, 2009, Hill performed America the Beautiful at the Super Bowl 43 pregame show.
ABC TV has long had Monday Night Football, and Hank Williams Jr. famously sang a intro song for Monday Night Football. But when NBC television took on Sunday Night Football, they wanted to come with somebody just as formidable and just as recognizable as Hank Williams Jr., and they did with Faith Hill.
Does your missus let you watch football all day on a Sunday and Saturday?
She does, yeah, she does, and she'll even watch it with me on occasion.
Really?
So yeah,
How do you find
she likes football too.
How do you find a woman like that?
I'm very lucky.
Yeah. Any advice for men out there looking for a football-loving missus?
Yeah, stay away from mine.
On September 17th, 2012, Hill debuted the song Illusion at the CMA Music Festival. Despite her very busy life, Faith has still managed to have an acting career, release fragrances, as well as give of her time and money to charity organizations.
But Faith Hill clearly also has heart. She's very active in several different charities, and she doesn't preach it. She doesn't sell that. She doesn't say, look at all the good I do in the world. She just does it. And that speaks volumes.
I think because of cancer has touched everyone's life, and us in particular. I mean, my father died of cancer, and my mother had cancer at an early age when I was very young, and survived. And I grew up with a house full of women, my mom and my two sisters, and I live in a house full of women now with my wife and my 3 daughters. And awareness, early detection, all those things are very important to us. And a lot of people do a lot more work than we do. But we're lucky that we have a position, that we have a podium that we can put a face on it and bring attention to it. And that's what we're here to do, and that's what it's all about. For a celebrity, I guess, in a position that we're in to get these kind of awards.
Is this your first joint award?
That's non-music related, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you to share this with Tim?
Oh, yeah.
Well, because we've gone through this together as a family, and it was difficult to get the news of Tug, and it was difficult to watch him fight, for the last 6 months of his life. So from that came a great deal of knowledge and dedication towards cancer research, quality of life, and we do that together. So anything you can do together, it's good.
Even though Faith has reached megastardom, she's still the girl next door, ambitious and driven as ever.
One of the things I write about in my books is finding that family-work balance. It is so hard to do that, which is why it's so admirable and so rewarding when we see people who have achieved that balance. Because let's be honest, when you're chasing your dreams, regardless of how big or small they may seem, there are a lot of things that get pushed to the side. And to make sure that your family is not one of those things that gets pushed to the side is a real accomplishment and a real medal of honor for people that can do that. Faith has managed to achieve incredible success doing what she always wanted to do, but even more importantly, achieve success as a mother and a wife. And when it all comes down to it, when the crowds have left the concert venue, when people stop downloading your music, when nobody's going to see the movies or the TV shows that you're in, what matters is your kids, what matters is your family, and what matters is love. And to know that you've never abandoned that you've never put that second in your life is the greatest success story a person could ask for.
Oh, she better be there.
Oh, me?
Yeah, she better be there.
He's going to have to let me do something. Maybe I'll bring out his microphone or...
Yeah, right.
or your guitar. Or you can give me your guitar. I've never gotten one of your guitars. That would be fun.
You kept my guitar all the time, baby.
Reba McEntire was born on March 28, 1955 in Kiowa, Oklahoma, to the parents of Jacqueline and Clark McEntire. Reba began her career while still a teenager singing in her high school band and on local radio. She was heavily influenced by the country music of Bob Willis, Merle Haggard, Dolly Parton, Barbara Mandrell, and Patsy Cline.
The quintessential success story in country music is Reba McEntire. You can see and you can hear and you can feel the influences of some of the greats, of Loretta Lynn, of Barbara Mandrell, the grit of Merle Haggard, the down-home, dirt on your feet, banjo on the front porch, mama with the fiddle country music that is still a thread in Reba's voice and in her music today. She is classic country. And I think a lot of people forget that. I think a lot of people forget that Reba's been around since the 70s. I mean, we can't even begin to count on all of our toes and fingers the number of hits she's had, the years she's been with us. Same could be said for people like George Strait. You know, I had this conversation the other day about, they're like, well, George Strait put out a double CD, 50 #1 hits. That was 10 years ago that came out. There have been more. Same with Reba. Everything she does goes right to the top because people love the classics.
I've seen Reba McEntire on the red carpet, and she is absolutely classy. One of those women, when you walk up and you look at you, and it's like, oh man, I wish she was my mother. She's just brilliant in so many ways. She has a wonderful voice, but on the red carpet, she keeps it simple. And she makes it like you're her neighbor. So she's like, hi y'all, what's up, hi. And that friendliness is really what makes it special.
McEntire knew the music business inside and out. While with Mercury Records, she released 6 albums before signing with MCA.
Reba McEntire was the most successful country singer in the 80s and 90s. So she expanded on that popularity and went to different avenues. She had her own television sitcom, and she proved that through that diversification, I mean, she's really gone past what is the country music world. She's the biggest crossover country star since Dolly Parton.
All of the acts that are out there today, these extremely talented young women who have obviously been very successful in music, obviously know how to tour, know how to put on a show, all of them look up to Reba McEntire because Reba has done it all. And more importantly, she's done it all well. And I think that that is a quality that any young person should look up to. I'm a big believer in modeling and finding someone who is doing what you want to do and doing it very well. Reba McEntire defines that.
This time, Reba decided to take creative control and do things her way. No more country pop. She was going to sing hardcore country.
Well, Reba McEntire is hip, funny, cool. Anyone who's watched her show is just, she's just adorable. And she already was just a huge country singer, and she had nothing to prove. She decided, why not? And she's just a talent, and it's obvious.
A lot of that style, some of the phrasings, the cadence in some of those country songs, and was able to sort of springboard her career from that. A lot of country songs tell a story, and there's a first verse that sort of sets up what the initial story is, and a second verse that takes it one step further, and the third verse is the big overall picture of what the song's all about. And it's sort of like the structure of a good story and the structure of a good country song. And Reba was more than familiar with that.
Although Reba had been married before to Charlie Battles and divorced in 1987, she decided to give love another chance by tying the knot with Norval Blackstock on June 3, 1989. On February 23, 1990, Reba gave birth to their son, Shelby McEntire Blackstock. After 24 years of marriage and still going strong, Reba said the secret to their wedded bliss was having respect, faith, love, trust, and lots of patience.
Reba McEntire's fan base consists of the most loyal and devoted people I've ever seen in person. In 2005, I was performing in Shreveport, Louisiana. Reba was giving a concert that night, an outdoor concert, and they asked me to introduce Reba on stage. I walked on stage, and there were people lined up against the railing for her show that had been there. Now keep in mind, it's 9 o'clock at night. These people had been there since 9 o'clock that morning just to be close to Reba. Now you say that's common. Every concert has fans that have been there all day. These were the people that were up front. The wave of devoted fans who had waited 12 hours to see her went back almost as far as the eye could see. Over 7,000 people lined up in a parking lot in the middle of summer in Shreveport, Louisiana, just to be close to Reba. That says a lot.
Reba was living a charmed life, until tragedy struck on March 16, 1991.
Reba just got finished performing at IBM for a bunch of executives just outside of San Diego. Very next day, members of her band and the pilot all died in a plane crash.
Reba dedicated her 16th album, For My Broken Heart, to her tour manager and her 7 band members that passed away. It just must have been a real tough time for her.
Reba McEntire's traveling band, her touring band, perished in a plane crash. And it greatly affected Reba after that. She subsequently took a little break, did write significantly during that time, or at least soon thereafter, and released an album that very much delved into those personal relationships that she'd had. The connection between an artist and their touring band is usually very close. They're on the road a great deal. They spend a lot of time together. They forge very strong relationships, and Reba was very close with a lot of good friends that had passed away in that plane crash.
With her music career soaring, McEntire became interested in acting. She co-hosted on Good Morning America, and in 1990, she landed her first film role playing Heather Gummer in the horror comedy Tremors, starring Kevin Bacon.
Because the acting side of her career, by any definition in show business, is beyond successful. She had a sitcom from 2001 to 2007, a 6-year run for a sitcom. That puts her right up there with some of the greats, right? And for many people, that's the only Reba they know, the Reba from the Reba sitcom. But let's go back to the very beginning. You want to play a little 6 Degrees here. Her first major acting role was in a movie called Tremors alongside Kevin Bacon. And if you're going to start off with somebody, might as well start off with one of the best. So her career was destined to be great from the very beginning.
In 1996, director James Cameron cast Reba as Molly Brown in his epic film Titanic. But when production extended beyond its original length, Reba had to turn down the part. The role was recast with Kathy Bates.
Reba McEntire's acting prowess was so highly regarded, she was actually cast in the movie Titanic to portray the unsinkable Molly Brown. She had to actually ultimately turn down the part because of scheduling conflicts, and the role was eventually given to Kathy Bates. But I'm sure Reba, if she was in the movie, would have knocked it out of the park.
When you talk about Reba the actress, we're not the only people that take note of her on-screen talent, of her on-camera talent. James Cameron actually tapped Reba McEntire for the film Titanic. She was to play the role of Molly Brown, who went on to be played by Kathy Bates in the film. One of the highest grossing films of all time, needless to remind anyone of how popular Titanic was. But she should and could have been there. A scheduling conflict kept her from it. She's one of these business women who sticks to her principles of you stick to a commitment, you don't break a promise, and that's obviously done very well for her, but you can't help but think what that movie would have been like with Reba in that role. Something to ponder.
In her storied career, Reba has sold over 70 million albums, had 64 top 10 hits, and the #1 TV sitcom. Reba is a recipient of every country music award that exists. One of her many proud moments was watching her son, Shelby Blackstock, a professional race car driver, compete at NASCAR.
I'm very happy that he's racing because that's his passion. His father, Norman Blackstock, and I have been in the music business for all our lives, and we just assumed that was where Shelby was going to follow. And a couple of years ago, it didn't seem like that was going to happen. And this past Thanksgiving, I finally just said, "What is your passion?" And he said, "Racing." And I really had no idea. And so it's been incredible. We've just been having a wonderful time with it. If he does one day follow in his father's footsteps of being in the management team, that's fine. But I can understand the excitement of the race business.
Reba McEntire is a music icon. When asked what is the secret of her success, she replied, "To succeed in life, you need 3 things: a wishbone, a backbone, and a funny bone." It looks like the Queen of Nashville's wishes came true. In country music, partying is normally associated with male artists and their rowdy friends, but Miranda Lambert is changing all of that. Strapped with a pink guitar and singing into a pink microphone, Lambert struts across the stage more like a hardcore rapper than a country music star. Miranda is country music's undisputed baddest bad girl.
And in addition to this bad girl image, she brought the goods. I mean, she brought the American dream, you know, she fought her way up through the music industry. All she wanted to do was be a singer, but she wanted to be a singer in her own way. And she did it. And her concerts are wild, they're raucous, the girls are yelling and screaming and going crazy. And I don't think the girls want to be Miranda Lambert. I think they want to hang out with Miranda Lambert. And that's the difference.
Lambert's father was a part-time country performer and songwriter. He taught his little girl how to play the guitar and write songs. The family income, however, came from the detective agency owned by both of her parents, which offered services to abused women.
The fact that Miranda's father was a PI or owned a detective agency, I think there's a chance that going back into her childhood, and I don't want to sound like a shrink here or really analyze who she is or where she came from, but I think that she might have been exposed to some different things that a lot of these other country superstars weren't exposed to. You know, it wasn't all about home cooking and getting up and going to church with mom and dad, then going out with the grandparents that evening. I think for Miranda, the dinner conversation probably centered around and focused on the darker side of life.
Because of the dangers involved in investigative work, Miranda was taught to shoot a gun as a young girl. As a result, she grew up fast, registering for a concealed weapons permit after going out on the road as a performer.
Rick Lambert, who also owned and operated a detective agency. He had a gun, showed Miranda how to use it when she was young. She's even a deer hunter today. And it just sort of cements her reputation as a bad girl with a gun.
At the tender age of 21, Lambert released her first major label single, Me and Charlie Talking, off the high-intensity Kerosene album. The album went on to sell over 1 million copies, and Lambert became an instant phenomenon. When asked about her hard-hitting persona, Miranda replied, "I don't write about angels, Jesus, happy days, or kids. I grew up drinking, cheating, and love gone bad."
Miranda's appeal really comes from the fact that she's the complete opposite of what we see these country music female superstars to be. I mean, think back to your Loretta Lynn's and your Tammy Wynette's. These were women that were the quintessential girl next door, the perfect wife, the perfect mother. That's what they knew, that's what they lived, that's what they sang about. Well, you fast forward to modern times and you have the modern version of those. You have Faith Hill and you have all of these women who are just the picture perfect image that we all want our daughters to grow up to be. All of a sudden, here comes Miranda Lambert. Beautiful, cute, bubbly, talented, but she's a bad girl. And she's proud of being a bad girl, and it really made everybody sit up and take notice and go, hey, wait a minute, this is something really different.
Her next album, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, was released on May 9th, 2007. Lambert wrote or co-wrote 10 of the album's 11 tracks. The single, Gunpowder and Lead, became her highest charting single to date. The album solidified Miranda as one of country's newest bad girls.
In 2007, Miranda Lambert had great success with an album called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And that album actually cemented her reputation as one of country's bad girls. And it's a designation of sort of that angry temperament that's in her lyrics. It isn't necessarily part of her demeanor, but you know, it is one of those things where she's now created a reputation for herself, and it certainly served her well.
Well known for obviously writing about heartbreak and abusive relationships, you know, but people shouldn't feel bad for her. It's pretty clear she comes out upper hand every time.
In 2005, Lambert won the CoverGirl Fresh Face of Country Music Award. In 2007, she received a Grammy nomination for Best Female Country Vocal Performance for her single, Kerosene. In the same year, she also won the Top New Female Vocalist Award at the Academy of Country Music Awards. 1 year later, Miranda won Album of the Year at the Academy of Country Music Awards for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Miranda has really achieved great success in not only country music, but the music scene in general. And she's been rewarded for it, obviously. I mean, she's racked up multiple awards. I think the reason being because she gives us everything we want. You know, we can safely sit back and really move to her music. We can look at her and say, you know what, that's a pretty girl. That's an attractive girl. Her concerts or parties, they're fun, they're interactive, they're loud. It gives us a chance to really release. And the videos are entertaining. So she brings it all and she puts it right there for you. And she can be the bad girl without you having to be the bad guy or the bad girl too.
In 2009, Lambert released her third album, Revolution, which she co-wrote all but 4 of the album's 15 tracks. Lambert and her band performed all the tracks on the album at the Ryman Auditorium 5 days before its release.
When Miranda Lambert was younger, she'd attended a Garth Brooks concert, and that lit a fire under her. She really realized that she wanted to be a country singer. She'd had the talent, but now she really wanted to take it a step further. Ultimately, her career grew, and she began opening for huge country acts. George Strait, Keith Urban, and Toby Keith, among others. And she gained a reputation and has since seen her country career flourish.
That same year, Lambert's boyfriend, Blake Shelton, proposed to her after getting her father's blessing. On May 14, 2011, wearing her mother's wedding dress, Lambert walked down the aisle and exchanged vows with Shelton in front of more than 500 guests.
When 2 of their favorites come together, I mean, if you're a girl between the ages of 15 and 20 right now, you've got one of your favorite country singers marrying your favorite heartthrob, who's also a country singer, coming together, bringing forth this love story. But it's not your typical love story. You know, it's the same appeal that we get and the same thrill we get from watching soap operas or primetime dramas. It's a nice romance, a hot, steamy romance. But it also has its darker side. It also has its problems that we get just a little peek at. So we're intrigued, we're enthralled. So they're like the couple next door that leaves the drapes open. You know, we can see in just enough to make us want to look.
Miranda Lambert has a happy and highly publicized relationship with Blake Shelton. They're married, have a house in Oklahoma. Are very happy together. They watch television together. They record together often, sometimes even perform together. But they've found a balance between their Oklahoma home and the road and being in Los Angeles, recording television shows and making it work and making a marriage work along the way.
In 2011, to prove she really is country's baddest bad girl, Lambert brought out her side project, Pistol Annies.
Miranda Lambert released an album along with 2 other country artists, Ashley Monroe and Angelina Presley. Together, they form a trio, the Pistol Annies. And they released an album that debuted on the country charts at #1, which goes to show that everything that Miranda Lambert touches turns to gold.
On August 23, 2011, the trio debuted their album, which debuted at #1 on Billboard's country chart. This was one of the most exciting new groups to break out in the country music genre in years.
Trio Pistol Annies consists of Lambert, Ashley Monroe, and Angelina Presley. Their album Hell on Heels, released in 2011 and debuted at #1 on the Billboard's country charts.
You know, I'm so thankful for everything that's happened to me solo, and now all I can think about is my girls and really developing my band. And you know, the new album will be just what you expect. It's 3 country girls singing about 3 country girls' lives, and we write everything on our own. We did on the last record, and our goal on this next record is to write everything just in our family, just the 3 of us girls again. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm kind of going to start focusing on that after this summer tour.
In November 2011, Lambert released her 4th album, For the Record. She also recorded a song for the Hunger Games soundtrack called Run Daddy Run, which featured the Pistol Annies. Miranda Lambert is a refreshing country music star. Her sass and fire make her one of the most innovative live acts in the music industry. She is truly country music's most genuine bad girl.
Miranda Lambert's fashion is sassy and wonderful. You always see her in black. She's always sparkling, and she's always like a little firecracker. When she comes up and says hello, she's got just an abundance amount of energy, and she's just really friendly too, which is wonderful to see. Sometimes you see Miranda Lambert with her husband, Blake Sheldon, and then other times you don't. So on the red carpet, you never know. But what you do see when she walks down the red carpet is just how friendly she is, and she always comes up. Again, she's your neighbor. She's chatting with you like you've known her forever. And it's a really great experience when you get a chance to meet her on the red carpet.
I think there's a bit of throwback to Miranda. I think she takes the best of the throwback era and mixes it with the best of today. I think that's a big part of her appeal. You know, when you go see Miranda Lambert, you're not thinking, hey, this is classic country. You're thinking, this is contemporary country.
We really, are really normal people in our everyday life. We go home to a farm in a little bitty town in Oklahoma, and all of this goes away. And so I could just tell he felt the way that I did tonight, looking in his eyes going, holy crap, what are we doing up here? You know, we're really thankful, we're humbled, we're excited to celebrate it together, but I think he feels the same way I do. You know, it's like, thank you so much for letting us win female and male, but we are totally happy, and we look at our awards every day, don't get me wrong. We have them all combined in one shelf, which I guess now we gotta get a bigger shelf.
Carrie Marie Underwood was born March 10, 1983, to parents Stephen and Carol Underwood in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Carrie was raised in the small rural town of Chakotah, which inspired the song I Ain't in Chakotah Anymore. It includes references to the local high school team Wildcats, Highway 69 and 40, and the Okra Fest.
What can I say? I mean, the woman is gorgeous and smart. She won American Idol in the 4th season and, you know, went on to mega success. She's clearly, you know, one of the biggest country singers of all time. She's huge.
Ironically, after high school, Underwood decided to go to college instead of pursuing a singing career. She worked as a page for Oklahoma State Representative Bobby Frame, competed in beauty pageants, and in 2004 was named Miss NSU runner-up.
To make it big in country music, you not only have to have the chops, but you have to have some smarts. And Carrie Underwood has that. She graduated from Northeastern University. She was a former page for a state representative in the state of Oklahoma. And she was thrown into the deep end after having won American Idol, but she came out of it a stronger person. And she has some savvy, you can tell. She's parlayed that experience and that success and made not only a huge career out of it, but now she is a huge brand and is going on worldwide tours. I expect to see big things, even bigger things from Carrie Underwood.
In 2004, Underwood auditioned for American Idol singing Bonnie Raitt's I Can't Make You Love Me in front of judges Randy Jackson and Simon Cowell. Her audition included a chicken impersonation and the revelation of a third nipple. However, her a cappella rendition of a classic song impressed the panel enough to give the country girl a golden ticket to Hollywood. Underwood would go on to become the American Idol Season 4 winner.
And when I was on the show, we made it to the finale, and we were getting ready for it and all that stuff. And somebody comes up to me to explain the pyro, and they're like, okay, whatever you do, whoever wins, you have to get to the front of the stage immediately. Tell the hair and makeup people not to put hairspray in her hair. And they totally did. And I told them, I was like, no, you can't put hairspray in my hair. I'm gonna blow up.
It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. You gotta get out there. I mean, you gotta be seen, you gotta be willing to talk to everybody. You know, go to every audition, learn from your mistakes, move on.
Carrie Underwood is the first country singer to win American Idol, the television show. When she hit, she was a huge sensation. Her career took off. Everybody wanted a piece of her, and she's handled things really, really well. You know, she was a recognizable face immediately, and she's sort of has that, you know, down home, sweet as apple pie persona, and the masses eat it up. And you know, she actually has a great deal of talent, and it comes across. And you know, those are the people that actually make it in this industry. It's not just having the wherewithal and having some talent. She is very much the whole package.
America and television executives wanted to create superstars. The executives wanted to create an outlet and a competition show that America would sink its teeth into. They did it with American Idol. They're doing it with The Voice. They're doing it with So You Think You Can Dance. They're doing it with all of these shows. And the reason being is because they wanted to manufacture superstars. And they did it. Kelly Clarkson. But Carrie Underwood is the one that really stands out. She became a sensation because America had the opportunity to make her a sensation. How? By voting. And that makes us feel like we're a part of her success.
Underwood's debut album, Some Hearts, was released in November 2005. It is equal parts soft rock and country. Her second album, Carnival Ride, was released in October 2007.
Carrie Underwood, well, she's won 6 Grammys, 16 Billboard Music Awards, 7 All-American Music Awards, and 10 awards from the Academy of Country Music. I think it's pretty fair to say that her success train is moving right along, and she doesn't plan on getting off it anytime soon.
It's really tough to compare people like Carrie Underwood to anyone else, especially when you're talking about artists who have jumped over that country music fence and joined us over here in the world of mainstream pop and top 40 music. But there's a lot about Carrie Underwood that we saw not too long ago in Faith Hill or in Shania Twain. You know, these women that young girls wanted to be. They created anthems for this new generation, and Carrie Underwood kind of took that torch and really ran with it.
At the 2009 CMA Awards, Underwood was named Entertainer of the Year, making her the only country female artist in history to win this award twice.
And I think she put a nice contemporary touch right on top of it. She polished it up, and she said, hey, look, I look like a pop star. I look like a cover girl. She is a cover girl, but she's a country sensation. And men love her, women love her, and she's an extremely talented young woman. And I think what draws us to her is the fact that she seems like she's got a great head on her shoulders. She seems like a loving wife now, and we've watched her growing up. We have a lot invested in Carrie Underwood. We've wanted her to succeed from the first time we saw her, and now we're celebrating in that success each time she puts out a video, each time she puts out a new hit single, each time she comes to town on tour.
In 2010, Carrie co-hosted the CMA Awards with Brad Paisley for the 3rd year in a row and was the American Country Awards top winner.
Well, it's interesting how the entertainment industry has suddenly paired Carrie Underwood with Brad Paisley. I think Brad might be the male equivalent to Carrie. I think he has the same kind of following. I think he has the same kind of wholesome appeal. And they have this really nice rapport together, which we don't see a lot, you know, especially in award shows, for example, which they've hosted, I think, the CMAs 3 times together now. And you see hosts crammed together. And if that chemistry isn't there, you can't fake that on television. I've been in situations myself where I've worked with hosts where it was purely business, and then I've worked with other hosts where there was a nice friendship off camera, and you can really see the difference. And these two share the same sense of humor, they share the same respect for country music, the same respect for their fans, and that really shows.
She was also voted on the People magazine's 100 Most Beautiful People list for the 4th year in a row. In that same year, Victoria's Secret named her legs the sexiest legs in Hollywood.
American Idol has been a solid vetting process. You know, if you make it through all those auditions and that whole competition and win the whole thing, it's a strong validation. And once Carrie had won American Idol, not only was she immediately recognizable everywhere, it proved that she really has the talent to make it. And, you know, she took that momentum and ran with it. And so, you know, she had an immediate following, and she's just been able to capitalize on that ever since. And so, you know, we can see her career trajectory even going up from here.
After taking the music industry by storm, Carrie decided to make her acting debut, playing pharmaceutical rep Tiffany on How I Met Your Mother in 2010.
In 2010, Carrie Underwood branched out to a role on television. She played a pharmaceutical rep on the television series How I Met Your Mother. And it was just a quick cameo appearance, but she proved that she has some acting talent as well. But it's one of those things, she's not only recognizable and popular, but she's won it on even the most popular television shows. They gave her a shot, and she was good on the screen.
And I think Carrie Underwood is one of those performers, and I use the word performer instead of singer because she comes at us from so many different angles, you know, that is just going to continue to branch out, you know, and everything she does, we're really entertained by. And good entertainment is so hard to come by these days. When she was on How I Met Your Mother, for example, she was great. Small part, but she fitted perfectly, you know, and like I said, we want Carrie Underwood to succeed in whatever she does.
Since winning the 4th season of the world's biggest talent show, Carrie Underwood, a shy singer with a goofy sense of humor, hasn't looked back since selling 11 million albums.
When Carrie Underwood was on American Idol, Simon Cowell was still one of the judges. And Simon is a tough critic. There's no question about that. He's had that reputation. But he knows when someone has the talent to make it. And he saw that in Carrie Underwood. And now, obviously, you know, the masses have seen that talent come through too. He's a strong critic, but he's got a good eye for talent, and Carrie is very much that. She's talented.
Faith Hill, Reba McEntire, Miranda Lambert, Carrie Underwood, and Taylor Swift all have talent and the will to succeed in common. They've each overcame obstacles that got in the way of their country dreams. They found their voice, wrote their songs, and entertained their fans around the world.